So good afternoon, everyone. We hope that you were able to attend all the presentations you wanted to today, and I felt like you had an excellent and great experience with the Institute. We'd like to thank you for joining us for the closing keynote speaker, Andrea Sneed, who is Director of Diversity and Inclusion with the United States Tennis Association. So just a little bit about Andrea before we hand it over to her. Andrea has been a professional advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion for well over 20 years, has proudly served 10 of those as a spirited facilitator. She joined the USTA as Director of Diversity and Inclusion in July 2021 and works closely with community tennis, the sections, the USTA Foundation, and others to increase awareness, relevance, and engagement among diverse communities. She began her career facilitating and educating on DEI with the University of Central Florida, Go Knights, Recreation and Wellness Center. During her time at UCF, Andrea spearheaded the inclusion of gaming and adaptive clubs to broaden aspects of diversity within sports clubs, which included the first collegiate wheelchair tennis team in Florida. She also served as chair of the UCF Recreation and Wellness Center's Diversity Committee, a member of the UCF Police Department Chiefs Advisory Council, and was a team lead for the university bias incident groups on campus. Andrea is also a champion for DEI within her professional association, NIRSA, where she has served on the board of directors, as well as the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Commission. Andrea holds a bachelor's degree in business, a master's degree in interdisciplinary studies, and is currently in her doctorate program in sociology. Go girl. When she is not coaching and watching sports, she spends her time working with the collective of women growing the sport of women's tackle football within the Women's National Football Conference, the WNFC. So I will hand it over to Andrea to give us a little bit of her and her journey to excellence. Andrea?
So JJ, really quickly, there's a quick correction on my bio. It said I've been doing this for about over 20 years, but I haven't really been alive long enough for it to be 20 years. So maybe I think that's more like 2. I think I may have added a 0 accidentally there.
I knew you were doing this since you were a child. So hey.
Thanks, JJ. Thank you everyone for allowing me to have this conversation with you today. I do wish it was a little bit more of a conversation and I could see all of your wonderful faces, but this is what we are presented with me talking to a few boxes on the screen, which is still pretty great. Thank you to the 2021-2022 cohort for inviting me. I have to be honest, this is probably one of the speeches or one of the times I've spoken on the topic that I don't necessarily really enjoy speaking on because it makes me a little bit emotional just because of some of the things that have happened and the various twists and turns and everything. It definitely did not, I'm not where I thought I would be in my life, but I have absolutely no regrets and I'm truly loving where I am at this point in my life. So the reason why it's just such an emotional piece for me to talk about, because I'm really driven by people a lot and I've got tons of people that I've met throughout my years of being a professional, which began for me at the age of 18. And every single person, connection, and everything I've done, I felt I've always tried to do with that lens of excellence and put in a lot of hard work. And while I've fallen short a few times, I really get emotional talking about my journey and the things it took for me to get to where I am, but I wouldn't be where I am without the people that I've connected with in my life. So prior to UCF, working at UCF, it wasn't actually my first connections to UCF, which is kind of strange to think about when you kind of go back into your life and you see these moments where it's like, wow, okay, that's why I am where I am. I actually applied to UCF back in 1998 when I was 2 years old. No, I applied back in 1998 when I was fresh coming from the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. And I was really, really upset because once I received my acceptance letter, it said you'll be entering as a freshman. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've spent 2 years accumulating all of these credits and you're not taking any of them. That's unreal. But I thought for a really long time that was my greatest regret in my entire life, is not coming to UCF at that point, because when I was working at UCF, I had such an incredible experience, all the ups and downs. It was just overall an incredible experience. And I am where I am today because of that experience. But now that I look back on it, I think it honestly was maybe just a few months ago that I realized that it actually isn't a regret for me. I actually am happy that I turned that down, because I don't think that I probably would have appreciated everything that I've been through throughout this point had I not turned down UCF at that point. And then just 5 years later, I had another opportunity to be at UCF, and that was actually to do my last couple of years. And in Daytona, I graduated with my AA from Daytona, back then Beach Community College. Now it's Daytona State. And I thought I would finish my career and be a UCF Knight. And, life throws some more loops at you. And I ended up having to withdraw from the semester, and it was too late. And, I ended up receiving all Fs. And that was the first time in my collegiate career that I had ever gotten anything below a B plus. So that was very devastating for me. Um, and I was pretty frustrated, but I didn't have a babysitter. I think sometimes we talk to our students and we have all these different scenarios and we listen to them. And I was one of those students that had a really life-changing thing happen, and it affected me going to college at that point. So I had to delay college for a while. So with great mentors that I had at Daytona, I ended up working for Daytona, Daytona State, and they mentioned that they would be beginning bachelor's degree programs. So I ended up receiving my bachelor's degree from Daytona at that point. But one of the most influential things for me that I did at Daytona, while some folks may say, well, you played college basketball there. Yeah, that was fantastic. It was great, and had a fantastic mentor as a coach. But really was, I think, started me really on this journey to diversity and inclusion work is I was asked to be the aquatics coordinator there. And the most interesting piece about that is I had no idea how to swim. So I had to really humble myself, and my staff taught me how to swim. And I was a Black woman in aquatics, and there aren't very many, especially in the state of Florida, we'll say, but there were not very many back then. And when I would go to any conferences and things, I was the only one. I was actually the only person of color, and that was that really didn't have that much of effect on me at Daytona. But when I graduated from Daytona and moved out to Orlando and became an aquatics director at the YMCA, it was huge for me. I had tons of feelings, and I think I really suppressed a lot of those feelings, and felt really uncomfortable. And instead of really taking it out on the staff I was working with and everyone else, what I actually ended up doing is taking that and channeling it toward helping others to not feel the feelings that I was experiencing at that moment. I think sometimes when we're on our journey and we're working through things, we don't necessarily think of how it's affecting us, as we more so think about how it's affecting other people. And I think especially in higher education, as professors and leadership and staff, we don't necessarily think about ourselves. And that was definitely what I was doing at that point. But I knew I knew in that juncture of my life, I knew I wanted to help others, especially others that looked like me, know that, hey, I can do these types of jobs too. Even though I didn't come up swimming, I learned how to swim at the age of 24. And but I knew I wanted others to be able to experience that. So I kind of became like just this advocate at that time period for people that looked like me to do things that weren't necessarily thought of as something that they would do. I was working 60 plus hours a week, didn't really see my kid much. He was really young at that time. And I just felt really uncomfortable with everything that I was doing. I absolutely loved my job, but I didn't like how much I was working. I didn't enjoy the everything else that came along with it because I really didn't think I was being a good mom at that point. But of course, life hits you and it hits you hard and it hits you fast. And sometimes it's in the form of a medical problem. And that's what happened to me. It took these higher powers and whatever you believe in, it took that just kind of slapping me upside the face. And I ended up in the hospital for about a week. As I'm laying in the hospital bed and I've got 16 staples across my stomach because I had two tumors and my uterus had to be removed. I think at that point I realized I cannot keep going at this rate because I've got this little human that's in my house that I have to take care of. So it was at that point that I realized I needed to start looking for other jobs, and that's what I did. And by all that is everything, I found this job at UCF that was a facilities and aquatics director and or coordinator, and I just applied, just threw my name in the hat. I knew I had worked on a campus before, so I said, "Hey, I love that environment. This will be the same exact thing." It was not the same thing. It was completely different from anything I had experienced, and I was extremely green, extremely green. It wasn't until later that I found out that I would be the oldest coordinator at the UCF Rec and Wellness Center, but it was definitely a life changing experience. So I've talked about this to a few people, and I know Jim, if you're not out there, but he he was extremely impactful in my hiring process simply because he was my last interview of the day. But before that, as soon as I walked in that rec center for the very first time, I was greeted by a, a black woman building manager, and it was absolutely incredible. I just got a note. Jim was in the room. Hey, Jim. Uh, and it was absolutely incredible. The look she gave me, and I remember, I'll never forget her name, and we still interact to this day. And the look she gave me when she saw me come in and say that I'm here for this position, it was actually a position that she would report to. I think I knew at that moment this was where I wanted to be because it was almost as if it was deer caught in the headlights. She was extremely excited, and she didn't even know me. She didn't know me from anyone, but I think she saw that representation, and that was extremely impactful for her. What was also impactful for me is as I was walking through and then touring the the rec center office, what I know now to be the safe zone placard, everyone had these, all the offices had those in their in their windows. And I'll never forget it. The first thing I thought of was, man, there's a lot of gay people that work at this rec center, a lot of gay professionals. That's incredible. I want to be here. Because for me, I had just come out about 3 or 4 years prior. So when I sat in this office for this last interview of the day with Jim, he started kind of pulling out all of these different charts and all of these things, and he talked about representation. And while I knew when I walked in the building and I met that building manager, I wanted to be a part. But once I met this white man telling me all of these different things about the diversity of not just the rec center, but UCF as a whole and what him and his staff strive to do, I knew at that point I I was supposed to be sitting in that office. I was supposed to not go to UCF back in 1998, where I was supposed to, you know, have all Fs in 2003 because it all led me up to that moment. So I knew that once I was offered the job, I wanted to make an impact right away. So one of the very first things I saw that I had a chance to really get to meet some folks, and for everyone that knows me, I'm all about people. I will talk to any and everyone, care. I'll walk by and hey, uh, there was an ethics group, cross-functional team that SDES was building, and I knew I wanted to be on that team, so I asked if it was okay in our department, and it was a fantastic experience. I met great people who throughout my career within SDES were extremely impactful for me. And then later I got an opportunity to attend a women's leadership institute up in not Santa Maria Island, but it was up North Florida and Amelia Island. And I think actually that's where I met Stephanie for the first time, who's in this cohort, and a few other folks. And it was just absolutely an incredible experience for me to meet those women. And I was very uncomfortable around a lot of women usually. And I just felt I was very different. I mean, I'm dressed in, a tie, a sweater vest. Shout out to all the sweater vest fiends. And again, it just kept reiterating why I was there and why I wanted to be a part of something special like this. But again, life throws you another hula hoop, and you got to either hula hoop or put it around your neck and hula hoop with it. So I put it around my neck, and I ended up having to leave UCF and completely leave Florida. And my family and I moved to California, to LA area in Torrance, and I landed a job at Cal State Northridge. Um, I knew very quickly the West Coast was not for me. I'm definitely a Floridian through and through. Much to what everyone may think, the West Coast is not the best coast. It is the East Coast. So it just never felt right. It was like my connection to UCF. It kept calling. We moved there for my wife to succeed in her career. But I went through a deep depression because, again, I was continuing to stuff all of these different feelings that I was having. Northridge was absolutely a fantastic um, school. It was very similar. If there was a school that was the most similar to UCF, it would be Northridge for me. But um, I couldn't get away from Subway though. Subway was in the rec center for a very long time. Shout out to Smoothie King to coming in there, but I couldn't leave Subway. Subway was literally up the right, walking distance from the rec center at Northridge too. So that was probably the only bad thing about Northridge. Not that I don't like Subway, but it was a lot. But nothing changed, right? I got worse from a depression standpoint. I had a very close family member. My niece was in the hospital here in Florida, and her health was declining, and it wasn't good. My brother's health was declining, and then finally, as a family decision, we decided to move back. So again, I'm thinking, what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to get back into diversity type work and rec type work when I have no idea what I'm doing? So never burn bridges. That's the tip, never burn bridges. So I called Jim and said, hey, listen, we're moving back to Florida. Please let me know if you know of anything in the area in Orlando. I don't care. I'll do anything. And it just so happened, he said, well, we're going to have an outdoor adventure coordinator position coming up. And I said, sure, I'll take it. In the back of my head, oh my gosh, I've never done anything in the outdoors. I've never camped. I've never done any of that stuff. I think the most I've camped was in my friend's cow pasture, and we walked up to her house and had breakfast the next day. But I was all about it. It was all about taking those different opportunities, even if you don't think you can do the role to the ability that probably someone else with more experience can. I always suggest, try not to say no. And that was always a philosophy I tried to live by. And I've done all different sorts of things. And I said, you know what? Let's do it. So I came back and ended up working as the outdoor adventure coordinator for about a year and a half. And again, I knew there was always more I could learn, but the experiences that I got there, I was really nervous about how the students would receive me. It was just, again, one of those things that I'm proud that I said yes, right? So after that, there was another role that came up, which was the role I actually ended in at UCF, and it was the sport club coordinator. And I think obviously they knew that would probably align with some of the skills I had. But to this day, I still talk to many of those outdoor adventure students, and I was able to impact that department in a very different way. Doing the outdoor adventure role, I also received the opportunity to be the diversity committee chair, as well as oversee the adaptive and inclusive recreation. And that for me was, again, that other shift and turning point that started me on this path toward becoming a D&I professional, even though I did not want to be the Black woman in diversity. I think there's when sometimes people think of, oh, this diversity and inclusion person, sometimes the first person that pops into some people's heads are a Black woman. And I did not want to be the stereotype, but I was very quickly becoming that, and I couldn't run away from it. I ended up the bias incident team. I was one of the first group of SDES employees that was on the bias incident team and ended up being, I guess, promoted to one of the team leads, which was, again, one of those experiences for me that I I think contributed to where I am today. So I've done outdoor adventure, aquatics and facilities, sport clubs, diversity committee, adaptive and inclusion, and JKRT. And I think throughout all of that, my goal was to be authentic, right? Was to be authentically me. And this was the first job that I've ever been authentically myself. Um, Through the professional organization for campus recreation, which is NERSA, again, had the opportunity to continue to be myself, work on the things that I loved, but still was able to tie it in to my work at the rec center without letting that work fall. A very wise man said to me when I first started doing my work within NERSA is that, you'll have these folks within NERSA that are doing fantastic things in that professional organization, but on the ground at their everyday role, they aren't doing anything for themselves to grow. And I knew I did not want to do that. I wanted to do everything and take care of every opportunity that I could. But in the back burner, I was not taking care of myself internally. So it just kept building and building and building. And then I received this phenomenal opportunity to be a part of LEP, and shout out to 2017, 2018 cohort. Uh, but the very first day, and I don't know if this happened to you all in 21, 22, but the very first session, buckets and buckets of tears. And I knew, I'm going to be great. This is going to be wonderful. I felt intimidated when I walked into that room for the first time and saw all of those professors with their doctoral degree and all these incredible and fantastic people that I hadn't met before. But we did this session, and it hadn't even been a year since my brother passed away. And it did me in, and it forced me to really think about my journey, think about what I wanted, and really start to grapple with the fact that I absolutely loved campus recreation, but I was very quickly becoming this diversity and inclusion professional. I was facilitating different sessions. I was doing things with LGBTQ plus services and social justice and advocacy and the police department. And it started to pull me away from what I thought was going to be my ultimate role, which was to be a director for campus recreation. And I had incredible mentors really start having me, one, focusing more on myself, and two, really telling me, listen, you enjoy this. Yes, you're enjoying it while doing it from a campus recreation lens, but I had to open my eyes and see the broader UCF community that I was able to impact as well. And then 2020 happened. And I think that a lot of folks, really it was the pandemic that affected them, but that didn't affect me as much as watching a human being killed in front of my eyes. And I lost sleep. I ended up emailing my best friend at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, I'm just going to run for office. I don't know what else to do to have more of an impact. I love what I'm doing for the UCF community, but I felt like I needed to do more. And I literally ran myself ragged. I prided myself on really grabbing all these different opportunities, but sometimes you do have to say no. I didn't do that as much, and it really took a toll on my body. I worked on doing all these great things within NERSA and trying to work on different things for a recreation and wellness center staff and SDES perspective, working on what Dr. Ehas's group, and there were still some things missing. I wasn't really taking care of how all of those things affected me, and what it ended up leading up and leading up and leading up and building and building. So it has been building for years now, right? Not taking care of myself, still continuing on my journey and moving forward, but really not taking care of my mental piece. So I received an email, and this was that, again, one of those life-changing moments from my supervisor who saw a posting and said, if I had the skills that you had, and I'll never forget that email, if I had the skills that you had, I would apply for this position. And I never thought in a million years that I would get this position, but I'm now the director of diversity and inclusion for the United States Tennis Association. And that really didn't hit me actually until last week when I was at the Billie Jean King Cup and I'm sitting here at this LGBTQ plus brunch and I'm watching these two women have a conversation about trans inclusion within sports, and I put that together, right? I had this opportunity to really impact a state and a city well away from where I live, and to be able to make the decision to say, I would like $1,000 to go toward tennis programming specifically for LGBTQ youth, and the PFLAG, the local PFLAG organization, to have a family tennis day, which will include everyone, not just PFLAG participants. I think at that moment, I was extremely grateful, and there were many, many tears shed in my hotel room by myself, not out of fear or frustration, but it was out of just sheer pride about what I was able to accomplish. And for me, my journey isn't complete. The My excellence, I'm not quite there yet, um, but I'm getting there. So I know that in higher ed, we're so incredible at encouraging our students and to focus on themselves and everyone else's journey, right? We're focused on, but we don't do a very good job of really focusing on that ourselves. So I implore all of you to not just ask for excellence from your students, but ask for excellence from yourself and your staffs, because we don't hold ourselves to that same standard that we hold our students to. Are you putting things on the back burner that you truly, truly enjoy in your job? Are you saying no to opportunities at UCF that you're either afraid or comfortable where you are? Are you putting those things on the back burner? Are you waiting on a supervisor or a dean, a director, or a VP, or even your graduate assistant to help you in your development? Or are you just grabbing those opportunities on your own? I think for me, I didn't wait for anyone to say, "Hey, you should take this opportunity," or anything until I got that email from Gary. But how do you hold yourself accountable for your own journey? I know I've had to actually schedule time, just 10 minutes out of my days, to really focus on me. And even if it's just to do some woosahing, I have to take that time, because if I don't, I'm going to have another heart attack. In November, late November, ended up actually having a heart attack, which was absolutely life changing, as everyone um, might might feel, right? Something like that is very, very scary. Um, and the scariest part was not that there was something wrong with my heart. Um, the scariest part was that it was stress. I think I was in there for 2 days, and it took them a really long time to figure out what it was that was going on. But it was stress. I didn't know today that I would even say that, but seeing so many faces on here that I truly, truly care about, um, and knowing that there's other folks on here that you all know how I feel about you, and it's real. I don't want you all to go through that. I know what's happening right now in higher education, and it's difficult, and I understand. And I'm here for all of you, but you've really got to take time for yourself and really make sure that you're doing that. We care with our whole hearts so much about our students, but if I could just help one person on here to really turn that around and spend time with yourself, reading a book, sitting out on your porch with your dog laying next to your feet, real life, um, do that, because it was definitely something that shook me to my core. And it wasn't until yesterday, actually, that I was able to let all of those emotions out. at my very last cardiologist appointment. So many of us have someone in our life that, you know, that helps drive us. People help drive me, but the biggest drivers in my life are not just the mentors I have, but are the two people that I was extremely close to that passed away. My niece was 7 when she passed away, and she loved school. She didn't get an opportunity to go very often because she was in and out of the hospital, but she loved school. But her and my brother were my inspiration when I received my degree in 2018, which which was ironically 30 years, right? That's 30 years after, no, 20 years after I graduated from the Art Institute and turned UCF down. So that was incredible for me. But again, thank y'all for listening, and I'm sure some of y'all out there that know me well were probably laughing at, my little choked upness, but that's okay. So I'd just like to say a few names, and these are all the supervisors that I've had in my life that I know have impacted me so much. From my time when I was 18, this woman trusted me to be a supervisor of people, which I don't know what she was thinking, but her name's Kendall Harden. My basketball coach, Dennis Cox, my aquatics director from Daytona, Allison Moore, my one of many executive directors at the Y, but the one that had the most impact on me was Jody Alexander. My 3 supervisors, and it's funny, I've reported to all 3 at one point: Jim Wilkening, Sarah Hunt, Gary Cahan, and my current supervisor, Marissa Grimes. Thank all of you for everything that you have done and that you continue to do to impact my life, and especially the staff at UCF for impacting my son's life as well. And I wouldn't be remiss if I did not give a shout out to my 2017, 2018 cohort. And if we could throw that up on the screen. So just a photo full of goats is really all I have to say. That's a photo full of goats. So thank all of you. And yeah, I guess if there's anyone that had questions or anything, I wish I could give all of you a hug right now, but to be continued. Thank you.
Like, just as Andrea said, well, first and foremost, thank you, Andrea, for sharing your story and sharing so much in terms of relating it to your personal journey to excellence. You're right. You're the person that is on campus, always saying hi. But yeah, you're being your authentic self and taking care of yourself is so important. And as you can see in the comments throughout, we dearly miss you and love you, without a doubt. We do have some time for questions, so if you have some questions for Andrea, please post them in the Q&A section of the chat, and we'll go ahead and ask those for you on your behalf. And it takes a minute or two for people to type furiously there.
In the meantime, someone said that they knew Allison.
Oh, wow.
Who was that? I can't see the full name here. Is that Jose? Jose?
Mm-hmm.
Can I talk to Jose really quick? Oh, you used to work? Sweet. Yeah, that was Allison was my homie.
Looks like, and we don't necessarily have a question, but a comment in there says, "You have given me hope. I am 59 and I don't know how to swim."
I will teach you. I will teach you. If they let me do that at the rec center pool, I will teach you. I absolutely love teaching swim lessons. I should still teach swim lessons. Shout out to Sanjay. I knew there would be a way for me to say his name today, Kavita, but I actually taught Kavita some swim lessons, and man, I saw him on Monday, and yeah, he's definitely shot up for sure. So Stephanie, I got you. Oh, well, yes.
I think
Kavita, I wasn't gonna put him on blast. I taught her husband as well. I wasn't gonna put him on blast, but
Mm.
This chat is blowing up. I wish everyone had access to it. I'll put my email in the chat, JJ, and I don't know if you can share it with any
We
of the
can definitely,
participants that are interested, if they had questions, just wanted to connect, set up. You know, I don't do
we will
coffee dates.
share it with the group there. And Delia just posted, did you play basketball at DC?
I did. Under Coach Cox. That was my dude. He was fantastic.
What years?
2001 to 2002. I actually was one of those annoying kids at 2000 in 2000 when I got to Daytona State, and I was an older student, like I wasn't 17 or 18, and I got there and they had already started the season because it took me a little bit to build up the courage, and he said he had a full team, and he said check back with me in March once our season's over, and I literally was at that man's door after they got back from the state tournament, not busting down the door and saying, hey, I'd still love to try out for the team. And he said that out of all of his years of telling people, that I was the first one that actually took him up on it. And I walked onto the team, and he later actually offered me a partial scholarship for books and tuition, but definitely was not expecting that. I was, because I'd already had grants that was covering that for me, but it was fantastic.
I played basketball for Dennis Cox as well.
Shut up.
Just 2 minutes before you did.
What? So did you play? Well, here we go. Now we have. This is what happened.
And we got questions. So y'all reconnect for a minute.
We can pick up another time.
Yeah, let's definitely connect. You have my email address now. Wow, that's hilarious.
That's what this is all about: reconnecting and connecting with each other, commonalities, and sharing. Our journey here. But the first question, sorry, Delia, to cut you off there, but our first question that we have is, first question. Thank you for sharing your story. What advice would you give someone who is too old to pursue success? You're never too old to pursue success.
Thank you.
Sometimes I feel I've aged out. So what would be your advice, Andrea?
So campus recreation is really there. I didn't know this at the time, but there is a process usually with campus rec. You work at a rec center usually in your undergrad, and then the majority of people go and they receive a graduate assistantship. So that age is around 22 to 24, and maybe it's a little bit older or a little bit younger, 21 to 22, 23. And so that by the time they're around 24, they're looking for jobs and they're becoming coordinators. I was 32, I believe, when I became the coordinator. So everyone else is much younger than me doing the same role. So for me, I had a lot of more full-time experience and everything, as you might expect. So I think there was a point for me that I really did think I was too old for that. I stayed in that role for 9 years. So I was 40 now as a coordinator, and everyone else again was still younger than I was. So just like JJ said, you're never too old, because I grappled with that internally for a really long time. I was afraid to get my master's degree because I didn't think I was good enough to do it. But that's the only advice. You're never too old for that type of development. You really aren't. As I was pursuing my master's degree, I was the oldest person in all of the classes. That was, not necessarily as frustrating or intimidating as it was just an uncomfortability for me there. But what I choose to do when I'm uncomfortable, I make more and more jokes. So it was, it was just something that I knew I wanted to do. So if and you're passionate about this specific thing, you're never too old. I would, talk to a supervisor, talk to a mentor, talk to a friend. You need that encouragement. And I've got a team of people behind me that are just absolutely incredible that continue to encourage me to chase after my dreams. And, I don't think I'd be able to do a lot of the things that I do now without, my bestest friend in the world. Shout out to Michelle Fitzgerald.
Yes. That's again going back to you're never too old
Never.
to achieve your dreams, and thank you for sharing that. Again, there's another comment in terms of, as we see in the chat, another thank you for your words of positivity and keeping a positive outlook. Those that know you know that we're there's always positivity around you, and being flexible to learn into what we are good at, even if it isn't something that we initially envisioned for
Yeah.
ourselves in our future. Purpose seems to somehow find us. So that was another comment that goes along with the thank yous that keep being poured out to being vulnerable and sharing your story. We do have, I don't know if you wanted to comment on that before we move to the next question, or
Just like tons of thank yous. Like that's
yeah, so
really,
they keep coming in left and right here.
yeah.
Here's a question from our friend Chantel. How do you overcome the imposter syndrome in order to excel your career? That would be my question for you too.
First and foremost, also taught Chantel's kids. They are fantastic for sure. Tell them I said hello, please. Um, you don't, right? I think that's an unpopular opinion. I think, some people may think you really get over it, but you don't. You get through it, in my opinion. I know that's what I've done. I've just had to get through it. I also feel that same way sometimes about people that have biases, and I think we all have some sort of bias, and I don't feel like I get over my biases as much as I get through them. Uh, yeah, and I am not over imposter syndrome. I am 8 months into my job, and I still don't think I belong there, but I get through it, right? It's the positive self-talk for me. It's the continuing to do the job that I know I can do and not try to compare myself. I think sometimes we have that imposter syndrome because we're comparing ourselves so much to everyone else or to other people that are in whatever area we're in, or they are in our cohort or whatnot. And I think that that's definitely what happened to me when I first started in the cohort for LEP. I was looking at, I mean, I think it was like 7 or 8 professors right in there, and folks with their doctoral degree. There's no way they're going to learn anything from me. I'm going to be soaking in all of this information, but to know that that happened in a 360 way for the learning, it was fantastic. So, Chantel, you never really get over it, in my opinion. You just have to find those techniques that work for you to be able to get through it without it
And
impacting what you want to do. That's the key.
And so here's a little ask for a plug. Where can we sign up for these swim lessons? Someone anonymously asked. Apparently, since you've educated on swim lessons for half of UCF's children's and spouses, where can we get these swim lessons that are so awesome?
So I actually do swim lessons at people's homes. Um, and again, it's usually just word of mouth. I started teaching swim lessons when I was at the Y, and then, my all of those parents who are now extremely close friends of mine, and they just kind of followed me, and they all had pools, but they would just do it at the Y because as a group. And so I started teaching all of their kids. So please email me if you're interested. I'm all about it. It's something that I definitely I enjoy. It's not something that I think I would want to do professionally, but it's just something that for me as someone who was a Black woman that didn't learn how to swim until she was 24 and had to learn from all of these younger people and was extremely humbled by it. I it just again became like kind of this side mission, again trying to advocate for people who may be fearful or may be scared, and may hear my story that I didn't learn until I'm 24, because when they hear I know how to swim, they automatically people think, oh, she's a swimmer. Not at all. I call myself a lifesaver for sure. I'm not a swimmer, not even close. But
Well,
yeah, just shoot me an email.
lifesaver. We have another question for you.
All right.
This is a really good question. Have you ever considered writing your autobiography? It would be such an inspiration to so many.
No,
So have you?
no, honestly, no. I think that sometimes when people hear about some things, and again, I don't think my life was worse than the next person's, right? I think we all have our ups and downs, and we all have those things that we have to be able to get through to keep going. No, never thought about it, but yeah, it's something to consider. It would be scary. It would be a scary thing to really air all my dirty laundry, but yeah, something I could be considered. If anyone knows anyone that could help me do that, I'm all about it.
We have posted Andrea's email in the chat, so you could email her about her awesome swimming lessons, connections to editors and publishers for that awesome next bestseller of
JJ, I'm
Andrea's
taking you on the road with me. I'm taking you on the road with me.
Hashtag Team Andrea all the way. So we're getting, I believe we're getting near to our time. If there's any other additional questions, we keep seeing, Andrea, it's always a pleasure chatting with you and learning from you. And, you have many, many friends and admirers still here at UCF. And so we thank you. Thank you for sharing your time and being our closing keynote speaker. Phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, to everyone that is still on with us, we hope you had a great time and a great experience here with us during the 2022 Leadership Enhancement Program Institute. Please remember to get credit for this. You need to go on web courses and you need to complete that confirmation quiz that is set up for you there. I like to take this time to thank everyone who helped make this LEP Institute possible, our presenters. Without you, we would not have the meat and of our institute and a learning opportunity to professionally develop with everyone like-minded from others. The 2021-22 mentors who helped guide us over the past year with our projects and be our sounding board to tell us we could do this, we can achieve these things. And my fellow 2021-22 cohort members. I mean, I have definitely become a family, and without all of us together, this institute would not have been possible. So without your time, energy, and assistance, again, this cohort would not have been a success. This institute would not have been a success without you, your input. So again, please remember that for everyone, please remember that your 21-22 cohort projects are posted on web courses. They will be available on web courses until Friday, April 22nd. Write it down if you need to. We worked very hard on them. You might want to connect with some of us based on some of our projects. We would love to hear from you. Also, the winner of the UCF parking permit, I know everyone is dying to hear about that, will be notified by the LEP email no later than, I believe, Monday, April 25th. And in order, again, or I'll repeat that, in order to qualify for it, you had to do the confirmation quiz on web courses, and you had to attend at least one of the sessions today. So April 25th, mark down your calendar there. We hope this institute has helped inspire you and help you continue to engage, to continue your journey of excellence here at UCF and beyond. So with that, I say, go Knights, charge on, and have a great rest of your week. As Andrea signs off and waves to y'all.